Hello and welcome to this jazz guitar lesson. I'm Chris Whiteman and thanks for joining me. Today we are looking at the jazz standard Stella by Starlight by Victor Young. And this video started with me playing the melody to this song in a trio format. So there were bass and drums present in the backing track as I played the melody and provided some harmonization as a form of self-accompaniment. And this is an approach that works well if you're in a situation without another harmonic instrument. So if I don't have a guitarist or a pianist providing chordal support for me, I will often use this approach to provide some type of harmonic support for myself. So we're going to look at this tune in two lessons, part 1 and part 2. And so in part 1 today, we are going to address the first 16 bars, and then we'll come back in a subsequent lesson and look at the second 16 bars. And then after we do the two lessons on the harmonization, we're going to come back and do a few more lessons on taking the harmonization approach and using that as a template for improvisation. So let's dive into the first half of Stella. Okay, so Stella starts with a pickup into measure 1 with a melody note B flat, and we move down a half step into A. The harmony here is E minor 7 flat 5, right? So I'm sacrificing my third because I want the 11th here. And I don't have to play the E. So what I did is I dropped the root. I have the flat 5th, I have the flat 7, and I have the 11th. I presented the harmony as an arpeggiation. 1, 2, 3. And by breaking up that presentation in that manner, it gives it some depth because I have more rhythmic expression now versus kind of a block style. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, right? I'm not saying one approach is better. They're both viable options. 1, 2, 3. And then here what I have is some voice leading. So I have my flat 5 and flat 7 of the E half diminished. The next harmony is A7. So I'm moving into A7 before the melody statement, right? So I get a little syncopation because I'm anticipating that harmonic motion on the end of beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Right, so that's a harmonic anticipation I just mentioned. And then I'm going to add the melody statement. So on the end of 4 and 1, 2, right? So straight little A7 here. I have A, C sharp, and G, root 3rd, flat 7th. Then I'm going to change my voicing. This is your 3rd inversion drop to A7. And then I grab the flat 9 on top. So looking at the next harmony, we have C minor 11. And I'm naming the harmony based on the relationship of the melody to that harmony, right? So if you look at the Real Book or iReal Pro, you'll see C minor 7. But the melody is F, so I'm going to call it C minor 11. And that just helps me kind of have a better understanding of what's going on. And how I'm presenting that is I'm anticipating the melody on the end of 4, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and then I grabbed my 7th and 3rd of C minor, and that concept of arpeggiating to add some rhythmic variety and depth, I'm using that again. And 1, 2, and 3. And then I move from C minor 7 to F7, and I'm just using the 3rds and the 7ths. All right, so B flat and E flat, moving down to A and E flat. So this is the 7th and the 3rd of C minor, becomes the 3rd and the 7th of F7. All right. And then the next melodic phrase, I added a little chromatic half step into the melody. All right, so I started on E natural. That's an embellishment of the melody starting on the end of beat 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. So there I broke up, again, the presentation of an F minor 9. And if you notice, I am frequently leaving out the root in the bass, right? Because I have, in this situation, a backing track, but if I had a bass player, they would be covering that bass note for me, so I don't need to have it. So the pickups into measure 5, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and. So the harmony underneath that, it's F minor 9. I drop the E flat down to D, and it becomes a B flat 13. 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and. So I've moved from F minor 9 to B flat 13. And then I drop the 13th down to the 5th because that's the melody note, while I retain the 3rd and 7th underneath it. And it's F, F, G, and that completes the melody harmonized with the B flat 13. And we move into bar 7, which is E flat. Major 7 is the harmony. Now, we're getting lower in the register here, so it's hard for me to get the 7th into this voicing. So what I did is I just played the melody note first, right? And again, I'm anticipating that melody note on the end of beat 4 on the previous measure to get some syncopation in there. And 1, and 2, and so I get all 4 notes of an E flat major 7 through an arpeggiation. And 1, there's my 7th, into my root, into my 3rd. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and. And if we listen to that whole phrase from measure 5, 6, and 7, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. All right, so here's my E flat major triad. I hit the B flat melody again, and then I move to my A flat 9 chord. Here I have the root in the bass. You know, it's not a 100% rule that you can't put the root in the bass of a chord if you have a bass player. You know, what you don't want to do is create a situation where you have a lot of bass frequencies that are getting muddy. So it's just something you have to listen for and adjust accordingly. So we've harmonized the B flat on top of an A flat dominant. I could have barred and put the 3rd in there as well. A flat, C, G flat, B flat. I left the C out because the C to me was starting to create a little bit of a density that was somewhat muddy. So that's a little more open. And then I grabbed the next melody note, which is C, and now it looks like an A flat 7 shell voicing, right? So here's the 9th to the 3rd. And then in bar 10, we have a common dilemma when we're harmonizing a major chord that has the 11th in the melody. So the melody note is E flat, and the harmony is B flat major 7, right? You could do that. It's not bad. What I like to do, if you just take the voicing and you move it up a half step, that's one way to deal with that. Now, I could just move the upper structure, keep the bass, and that's what I did. I didn't even think about the bass note because I'm imagining the bass player playing it, and I just move the whole upper structure of the B flat major 7 up a half step. And then I added a little trill for effect. Into my E minor 7 flat 5 voicing, which is just E, B flat, and D. Right. And by the way, all of this is written out in standard notation in tablature for my Patreon subscribers. So I'll put a link in the video description if you're interested in getting the PDF of this. And then I move to A7. I've got to harmonize the E in the melody, and I'm going to use C sharp diminished, right? Because if I look at this voicing, if I take the B flat, I move it back to A, we have a first inversion A7. If I move it to B flat, we have an A7 with a flat 9. And again, the bass player is going to be playing the A, so I don't have to worry about that root. But here's my A7 flat 9 disguised as a C sharp diminished. And then the next harmony is D minor 7, and the melody is a G. You add the G on top of D minor, and you get an 11th, right? So we have D minor 11. We could play it like this. I left off the root, I left off the D, and I started with the A. So I have A, C, and G. And then the melody just drops down a whole step to F. So, and then we have a quick, what we call backdoor 2-5. We have a B flat minor to E flat 7 that takes us to F, right? And there's not a lot of melodic motion here. It's more of like a harmonic placeholder, but we have to have this harmonic motion in there. And so what I did is I did a very kind of cliche voice leading between a B flat minor 7 and an E flat 7. Right, so I kept the D flat present throughout and just walked down from B flat chromatically down to the G, right? And then I have to pick up my next melody note, which is G. It's the pick up to the next phrase. And then we are in a similar situation to what we dealt with on the B flat major 7. Now we have an F major 7 that has a B flat in the melody. So that, again, that's the 4th or the 11th, creates a suspension. And so what I'm going to do is I'm taking, if I think about this little A minor triad as the upper structure of an F major 7, I just move it up a half step. And that's how I deal with that F major 7 sus. If you had the bass in there, you can hear it. It sounds very pretty. Another way people will think about this is that it's a minor 4 chord in relation to the tonic. So if F is our tonic, B flat is our 4 chord, you make it minor, little B flat minor. It's a little shortcut if you want to kind of codify a way to deal with a suspension on a major 7. Go to the 4 minor, and that will give you a voicing that has the suspension and then gives you nice voice leading back into your destination, in this case, F major 7. Right. I left out the root. I'm not worried about it because I've got a bass backing track. So, and then we have G, F, the last 2 melody notes in that measure. Now moving into measure 14, we are back at an E minor 7 flat 5 harmony with G in the melody. You're probably familiar with this E half diminished shape. I'm just dropping the root. So I have B flat, D, and G. Moving to A7. Again, back to the voicing we used earlier. Third inversion, drop to A7. Moving up to the flat 9. Now, what does that look like? A little B flat diminished. I fingered it this way with a bar, but it is an A7 flat 9, as Mark Levine says, disguised as a diminished chord. Moving into an A minor 7 flat 5 with a D in the melody, that makes it A minor 11 flat 5 or A minor 7 flat 5 at 11. And I'm using A, E flat, G, and D. Melody moves down a whole step to C, so. And then we move into a D7 flat 9. Now here's a straight D7. My D is on the 3rd string. I raise it a half step to add the flat 9, and we get, again, a diminished voicing that is functioning as a dominant 7 flat 9, in this case, D7 flat 9. I need the D melody again on top of this, so I'm going to bar and add the D, and that is going to be my pickup into the next phrase. All right, so that takes us through the first 16 bars of Stella. I'm going to have the second half of this up shortly. So in another day or so, I'll have part 2 out. And as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be the foundation for another series of lessons where we take this and utilize it for improvisation. So thanks so much for joining me. Everything we went over today is available as a PDF download with tablature and standard notation and a backing track for my Patreon subscribers. And I'll put a link in the description to this video and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.